What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS bringing you a brand new video. In today's video, I'm going over the Monday night showdown between the Rams and 49ers. Rams have a 3.5 point spread total against the 49ers, and the 49ers are at home. The game total is set at 50 as of right now. And yeah, this is probably, in my opinion, a game where you're going to want to have multiple lines. Bears contest with single entry, and by all means try it, but you're getting a San Francisco team that uses different running backs. You're getting a Rams team who just lost one of the key players in their offense, and now we're going to have to see what they do with wide receivers. We also have some injuries to watch out for tonight. One of them is already ruled out, the other one is questionable, so we'll have to see that news because it will actually factor in a potential very valuable play tonight. So let's look at the differences of today's video. What I basically do is I compare prices on both sites and kind of find some advantages and disadvantages on both sites and just go from there. So this is one of the very few times, and I do mean few times, that we see somebody that's not a quarterback as the most expensive player. And the crazy thing is he's not that expensive. So granted, he's $12,000, but you look at the quarterbacks and you get Stafford at 10.8 and Garoppolo at 10. Typically, that's not like that for a showdown. And then we go to Fanduel, and it's the complete opposite. Stafford's at 17, Cooper Kupp at 16. You get the quarterbacks here. And we'll start off with the price differential here already. So on Fanduel, you get Stafford, Kupp, the San Francisco quarterbacks. Then you get Deebo Samuel, Darrell Henderson, Elijah Mitchell. Now, on DraftKings, you get Darrell Henderson, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. So, a little bit of a difference. Elijah Mitchell more expensive than Kittle. And on DraftKings, Mitchell's down there. So, obviously, Cooper Kupp is the number one receiver this season. Not only is he Matt Stafford's number one target, he's his red zone target, he's his third down target. So two crucial things of which make Cooper Kupp amazing. Now, San Francisco's defense has not been San Francisco's defense this season. Obviously, losing their defensive coordinator in the offseason has definitely taken a toll. They've also been really banged up in the secondary, which they've been exposed at quite a bit. You were probably not going to see Von Miller in this game, it seems. So that's not a huge difference. You're still getting the Rams defense. Von Miller just adds stuff. Him taken away, you still get the same defense. Him there, upgrade. Him not there is not a downgrade at all. So Cooper Kupp, most expensive player. Like I said, on DraftKings you can get a quarterback for 10.8, the starting quarterback. That's kind of crazy. Obviously, FanDuel has made adjustments, but FanDuel has very mispriced players. And let's go over that. We're just going to go over the mispriced players on FanDuel. DraftKings, granted, I think the prices are down for players. Like, you get Elijah Mitchell, the number one running back in San Fran, at 6'4", which is crazy. Van Jefferson down at 5'4". But FanDuel, so granted, FanDuel has prices a little higher for these players, and I do mean a little higher. But you go down and like Van Jefferson at 8, Brandon Ayuk only at 7.5, Tyler Higbee at 7.5. So let's talk about that. So you get the tight end basically at half a price. Tight ends are usually around 8 to 9, sometimes 10 depending on the tight end, like a Kelsey, Waller, Kittle. So to have a tight end like that, have the number 2 wide receiver, and basically the number 3 receiver for the Rams, but I'm going to put him as number 2. I'm not going to mention Skronik, but Skronik's there. So, yeah, it is crazy. And on DraftKings, I mean, Skronik, $200. They said he's going to be replacing Robert Woods. The guy that's replacing Robert Woods is $200. Now, granted, you can't have a lot of faith in that. But you look at what he had week 8 against Houston. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 30 yards. Caught everything that was thrown to him. Granted, it was against Houston, and it was probably in end of the game. I can't really remember. I didn't want to even watch that game. So yeah, that's where the interesting part comes on DraftKings. So you throw Skronik in there, so the average player that you get is 83.3 repeated. So let's throw him in there. It changes it to $1,600. You have $9.9 to spend. There are only 3 players on the slate, not captain, on DraftKings over that price. So let's just theoretically put it in there. We won't put a captain in yet. We'll just put those 3. You have $8,500 to still pick a captain and a flex, and there's only 2 players more expensive than that. So if you throw Skronik in there, just there. Now let's do this. Let's have a little more fun. So I'm not gonna do this. I don't suggest doing this at all, but we'll throw them in there just to see how interesting this turns out. It was 300. So we have 8,400 average salary remaining. And for fun, that is the lineup that you can have. You can maintain both starting quarterbacks. You can get one of the 2 top receivers for San Francisco and get the number 1 receiver for the Rams and still have money left over. So that's crazy. So what I mean of value, I mean value. That is ridiculous. So let's try to do something similar on FanDuel really quick. We'll throw him in there just to get him off the captain. So he's only 6,000, so it's not as... So let's try to do the same thing. Let's throw him in there. Let's throw him in there. It's not as easy. So you're not going to be able to do the same thing on FanDuel that you are on DraftKings. You're going to have to be a little different. And again, if you, for some reason, get Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, you have $60,000 for 5 players. You just spent over half of that on 2. So you're going to have to pick and choose what you want to do on FanDuel. So DraftKings, you can get away with it. You can. It's very doable. FanDuel, you're going to have to be different. So let's talk about the San Francisco side before we go back and talk about the Rams. So Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance listed at the same. On DraftKings, it's different. Trey Lance is down here at 6,000, Garoppolo at 10,000. So DraftKings, surprised they didn't list Trey Lance higher. But then you get Deebo Samuel, the number 1 receiver for San Francisco against the Rams. And it's brutal. It is brutal looking on the San Francisco side. Their offense hasn't looked amazing, and their defense hasn't looked elite. Their defense is still good, but they just haven't looked elite. They haven't looked like the Super Bowl contending team they looked like a couple years ago. And granted, like I said, there's injuries on the secondary, and that affects a lot. But they do have a very solid linebacker core. And the same thing for the Rams. The Rams have a solid linebacker core. There's not a huge amount of names that stand out. But the name that you consistently see is Jalen Ramsey in the secondary for the Rams. Obviously, top 5 cornerback in the league, if not the best. And you get someone like Deebo Samuel, you get someone like Brandon Ayuk in there, and it's very scary, especially depending on someone like Jimmy Garoppolo, who we've seen fail in clutch time situations. Looking at him fantasy-wise, look at his numbers lately, and they look pretty good. His pass attempts aren't the highest. They are a run-first team. I don't think they always will be unless something happens to where they need to score. But you look at Garoppolo's yards lately, and he's thrown for over 300 yards in the last 2 games. He threw 2 touchdowns last week against Arizona. He didn't throw any against the Bears, but did have 2 rushing touchdowns. So the yardage is there, and it mostly comes from Deebo Samuel. You look at Deebo Samuel, 171 against the Bears, 63 against the Cardinals, and then you get someone like George Kittle in there. And George Kittle is probably more likable for me over Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk tonight. I do think he has an advantage, just not seeing Jalen Ramsey. And then, Brandon Ayuk last week has the best game he's had all season. So I think they've proven that they could throw the ball, but are they going to stay committed to it against this really good secondary? The advantage is going to be on the defensive line for the Rams, just because you have Aaron Donald blocking up that middle, and you're forcing San Francisco, for the most part, to run on the outside. So the other difficult thing that comes with me is Elijah Mitchell is the number one running back in San Francisco. He's 11.5 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you get him at a discount. You can get him at 6.4. The thing that stands out as something to worry and watch is if Elijah Mitchell's not running good and, say, Trey Sermon, and it won't be Trey Sermon, it'll probably be Jeff Wilson. The news of JaMycal Hasty being out is actually promising more for Jeff Wilson. Say Jeff Wilson gets in there and has... No, it doesn't have his recent games yet. Has a game where he comes in and gets an 8-yard run, 10-yard run, and just starts progressing. Elijah Mitchell's probably going to stay out of the game. They're going to go with their hot hand. He's going to come back in the game. He's going to see reps. He's going to see his rushing attempts. But you look at something like last week where they have to throw the ball. He still gets you the 10 fantasy points, but that comes from the receiving game, not the passing game. And we really haven't seen Elijah Mitchell get those targets in the backfield. It's more come through the ground. So that's something definitely to watch out for, which is why I recommend playing different lines, throwing somebody like a Trey Sermon or a Jeff Wilson in there for a sneak play. So basically, the guys I'm targeting on San Francisco is George Kittle, some Deebo Samuel. I have to look more into Brandon Ayuk's matchup. But just how Brandon Ayuk's been involved in the offense, it's hard to really get behind him. Now, I do think he's at a very good price to where if you need to play him, you could play him, and it's not going to kill you. I'm probably going to stay away from Odell tonight as well, just throwing that out there really quick. And then the other thing that affects San Francisco is Mohamed Sanu got announced out. Now, granted, like I said, San Fran doesn't throw the ball, so you can't put too much in there. But Trent Sherfield will see some reps. And we haven't really seen him being involved in this offense. But with someone like Mohamed Sanu out, and you can see of what he's going to be replacing Mohamed Sanu. The most targets he's seen in the last 4 games played is 4. Yardage-wise, only 1 game above 19. So it's not a lot, but there is value there. That is a value play. That is someone you want to see as value. Kyle Juszczyk, I mean, we've seen him be used in the receiving game lately, which is crazy to see a fullback like that. So that's something else we're going to have to watch out for. Definitely another value play. You can't get too invested. But with someone like JaMycal Hasty, who is out, and you look at JaMycal Hasty, what he's been involved in lately, that's reps. That's targets. That's someone is going to take those. So there's value, definitely value on the San Francisco side. So you're going to watch out for Jeff Wilson, Trent Sherfield, and Juwan Jennings is the other guy for San Francisco that's probably going to get some looks there. Trey Sermon, the reason I'm staying away from Trey Sermon is he's had opportunities and doesn't seem like he's really honed in on those opportunities. A big letdown, in my opinion, for me. I drafted him in fantasy quite a bit. So now let's go to the Rams side. So Cooper Kupp, Stafford are both guys, yes, that I love tonight. Darrell Henderson is another guy off the injury report for the most part this week, and he has gotten 10 plus rushing attempts in every game he's played, which is great. And you see his targets, and he does get targets. This is another San Francisco's linebacker core is probably one of the best linebacker cores in the league, so that does give me a question mark on Darrell Henderson. It's just he gets those 10 plus attempts every game, which is reliable and trustworthy. So the kickers, both kickers, I mean, they're in play for me, but they're not my favorite, especially with the prices. I mean, you can get someone like Tyler Higbee, Brandon Ayuk, or Van Jefferson less than a kicker. But you look at someone like Matt Gay and what he's done this season, and for a kicker to put up the least amount of points that he's put up is 8, and that's with 1 field goal. That's just how good the Rams have scored. He gets those field goals, and he makes them. I'm pretty sure he's not, if not the best, then top 5 kickers this year, and then you get one of the best kickers in the league's history but you look at his attempts and it's not the greatest either. So yeah, I'm probably staying away from kickers if I'm playing 150 lines tonight, which I probably will have. I'm gonna have a couple lines in there with them. On DraftKings, the price is a lot better, 4.2 and 4,000, and you get Van Jefferson here at a discount as well as Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee's a little more expensive on DraftKings and FanDuel, just based off value. Where you normally see players like that. So I mentioned on FanDuel, I forgot to come back to DraftKings. You get Jeff Wilson at 1,200, Trent Sherfield at 200. So essentially, you can have two guys in your lineups with $400. So just to throw that in there of how ridiculous that is as well. We'll throw those two guys in there. You can afford everybody on the slate. You could throw in Cooper Kupp, throw in Stafford, throw in Garoppolo, throw in whoever you want. And it's doable. That's doable too. Interesting things there. Like I said, I'm going to stay away from Odell Beckham. Higbee is on my watch. Not one of my most favorite plays. I'd rather go Van Jefferson on DraftKings. You get a discount and you get somebody who's not going to see that much of that linebacker room there. So that basically covers everything, guys. Like I said, there's value on DraftKings a lot more than FanDuel. You essentially get two guys at $200 that you could throw in your lineup, and it's going to be on the field. Skronrook, if he plays, he's worth more of a look. Definitely worth more of a look. If he's out, you're going to have to watch and see who's going to get in, because there's not a lot of guys that get snaps for the Rams. They might go Odell and throw him in there a little more, but based off of his injuries, it just popped up last minute basically. I'm not too concerned about it. Mohamed Sanu is officially out for San Francisco, so Trent Sherfield and Jennings, wherever he is, it's probably even more. Ron Jennings there is 200, so definitely value a lot more values on DraftKings than FanDuel. FanDuel, you just get the prices down here. I mentioned Jeff Wilson there at 5,000, Skronrook at 6,000, and Trent Field at 55. But you're gonna have to, like I said, it's really hard to throw these two guys in there, and then find value otherwhere. Throw him in there and get 10-5 and get someone like Odell if Skronrook is out, but then you have to find value somewhere else. So Van Jefferson. So like I said, DraftKings is a lot easier to do something crazy than it is FanDuel. So hope this video did help, guys. If you guys are interested, our Discord will be linked in the description down below. We killed it yesterday in DFS, and I mean we killed it. We had a great day. We were so close to having an amazing day, but we still had a great day. Cashed very safely in double ups. I think we're in like the top 2% of cash there for double ups, and tournaments we killed it. So if you guys are interested, the link for that will be in the description. We also do NBA, and we have NBA has a very nice cash success rate, so definitely check that out if you guys are interested. Very cheap package. So like I said, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.